A tired Hells Angels biker stopped by a diner to grab a quick bite before heading back to his daughter, who was in critical condition after a 10-day ride. However, he was made fun of, humiliated, and even accused of stealing by the residents in that diner. To prevent him from leaving, they even sabotaged his bike. Only the black diner owner stood up for him and served him with respect. However, because of her generosity, everyone in the village turned against her and mercilessly vandalized her diner. What she didn't know was that kindness always gets repaid. Nearly 900 bikers were on their way. What they would do next would leave the whole town stunned. Before diving deeper into this story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe so I can keep sharing more special stories with you tomorrow. Before everything that happened in that little town, before the angry stares, the false accusations, the vandalized walls, and the night a 12-year-old boy became a quiet hero, there was just a father on a highway, fighting the clock to reach his little girl. Theodore Carter never imagined his journey home would pull him into the heart of a community that feared him on sight, or that the simple kindness of a young black waitress would ripple so far beyond one desperate night. He never imagined that a meal served in compassion would one day bring 800 Hells Angels roaring into a town that once slammed its doors in his face. But this is what happens when people choose empathy over judgment, when courage moves quietly through everyday hands, and when the most unexpected hearts stand up for someone who looks nothing like them. This is the story of how kindness changed an entire town. We begin on a stretch of highway swallowed by fading daylight, where Theodore Carter leans forward on his motorcycle as if he can force the world to move faster through sheer will alone. His phone is still vibrating in his pocket, though the call has already ended, and the words from the school nurse echo through him with every breath he takes. His daughter, Emma, 5 years old, bright as morning, collapsed during recess. Severe abdominal pain. Suspected appendix rupture. They're rushing her into emergency surgery, and they need him there. Now. 300 miles. That's the distance between Theodore and the only family he has. He calculates it again and again in his head, as if the numbers might somehow shrink themselves. He hasn't slept in nearly 2 days after helping a fellow club member on a cross-state ride. He shouldn't even be on the road in this condition, but none of that matters now. Not when a doctor told him, with a tone too calm to be comforting, "Sir, please get here as quickly as you can." Guilt presses hard against him. He left for 10 days, only 10, but emergencies don't wait for fathers to come home. And now the road ahead feels longer than any distance he's ever ridden. He keeps telling himself that Emma is strong, tougher than she looks. He pictures her holding her stuffed koala, the one she refuses to sleep without. He pictures her smiling, telling him he always worries too much. But beneath those memories is the fear he can't shove away. What if he's too far? What if he's already out of time? He grips the handlebars tighter. The sky is darkening. His thoughts are racing. And for the first time in years, Theodore Carter prays, not for himself, but for a little girl lying on a hospital bed, waiting for her father to come home. As Theodore pushes deeper into the winding highway, the cold wind biting against his face, his thoughts drift to Emma in a way he can't control. It happens every time panic gets too close. His mind reaches for memories, small ones, soft ones, the kind that hold him together. He remembers her laugh first. Not the loud kind, but the quiet one where she scrunches her nose and tries to hold it in because she thinks it makes her sound grown. He remembers how she clung to his vest the first time he took her on a slow ride around their neighborhood, her tiny voice shouting, "Daddy, go faster," even though he refused. He remembers the nights he would come home covered in dust from long rides, aching for miles and exhaustion, only for Emma to greet him at the door with her stuffed koala and a demand for a bedtime story. He wasn't always a single father. There was a time when home meant 2 adults figuring things out together, but life unraveled in ways neither of them planned. The divorce was bitter and messy, and left both of them bruised in different ways. His ex-wife moved away shortly after, leaving Emma with him, something Theodore still thanks life for every single day. He might not have much, but he gives her everything he does have. And the Hells Angels? People see the patch and assume one thing, that he chose chaos, trouble, danger. But they never see the reasons behind the brotherhood. They never see how it keeps men like him anchored, men who grew up without safety nets, men who learned the hard way that loyalty and protection aren't luxuries, they're lifelines. The club gave him structure, purpose, people who would ride through the night for each other without hesitation. He'd been returning from exactly that, a 10-day trip to help a fellow brother whose life had taken a hard turn. He tells himself it was the right thing to do. Helping someone in need always is. But now, with his daughter in a hospital miles away, fear drags a jagged edge through his chest. He checks the time again. Each mile feels like a negotiation he can't afford to lose. And as the first distant trace of storm clouds forms overhead, the thought settles heavier than the sky itself: Emma needs him, and he's still too far away. He leans forward, urging the bike on, whispering a promise into the wind. "I'm coming, baby. Just hold on." The miles roll beneath Theodore in a blur, but the storm gathers faster than he expects. The clouds swell, thick and heavy, turning the evening into an early night. Damp air settles against his jacket, warning him of what's coming. He's been riding long enough to feel the shift in weather down to his bones, but today, he doesn't have the luxury of stopping. He tells himself he'll push through it. Just 20 more miles before the next small town, then he can refuel, grab a bite, check his map, maybe call the hospital again. Just 20 miles. But as he climbs a slow rise in the road, the engine beneath him coughs, once, then again, harder this time. A sputter follows, the kind that sends a sick drop through a rider's stomach. "No," he mutters under his breath, though no one is there to hear it. He eases off the throttle, hoping the bike just needs a moment, hoping the machine will forgive him for the punishment he's been putting it through. But the cough becomes a choke, the choke becomes a stutter, and then the engine cuts out completely. The sudden silence feels like a punch. He coasts as far as he can, pulling onto the gravel shoulder. The bike stops beneath the flickering glow of a bent streetlight, the nearest sign of civilization still several miles ahead. He tries restarting it. Nothing. Another try, still nothing. A third time, longer, more desperate. The bike remains stubbornly still. For a few seconds, Theodore just sits there. Rain begins to fall in scattered drops, tapping against the tank. Behind the panic in his chest, a deep exhaustion stirs, threatening to drag him backward, but he doesn't let it. He can't. He swings his leg over, plants his boots on the ground, and begins pushing the motorcycle forward. Each step echoes the same thought: she needs me. He pushes harder. By the time he reaches the small town, its name half faded on a weathered sign, he's drenched with sweat and the early rain. It's quiet here. Too quiet. A population barely scraping past 3,000, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and strangers stick out like a stain on white linen. He notices the looks before he even makes it to the main street. A man closing up a hardware store pauses mid-lock, staring openly at Theodore's leather vest, the Hell's Angels patch bright against the dark. A woman walking her dog takes one look and crosses the street. Curtains shift in windows as he passes. He expected to stand out. He didn't expect to feel like a warning siren had gone off the moment he entered town. He spots a neon sign flickering at the end of the block: Big Mama's Kitchen. A diner. Food. Maybe a charging outlet. Maybe someone who knows a mechanic. Maybe even the smallest bit of help. He pushes the bike the last stretch, muscles aching, throat dry. Through the diner windows, he sees families eating, a couple laughing, a group of older men drinking coffee. It looks warm, normal, safe, everything he hasn't felt since the phone call. But as he pushes open the door, the warmth doesn't reach him. Conversations pause. Forks hover mid-air. Heads turn. The room goes tight and uneasy, as if his presence alone drops the temperature. Theodore forces a breath, tries to steady himself. He's been stared at before, years of riding in leather teaches a man not to flinch, but tonight, with urgency gnawing at him, the scrutiny digs deeper. All he wants is food. Directions. A few minutes to figure out his next move. He doesn't realize yet that this diner will become the center of everything that follows, every kindness, every cruelty, every consequence. He doesn't know yet that this is where the town will decide what kind of people they really are. Theodore steps farther into the diner, water dripping from his jacket, fatigue clinging to him like a second skin. He tries to meet no one's eyes, but it doesn't matter, everyone is already watching him. A couple in the corner stiffens. A man near the door shifts his chair back as if preparing an escape route. Even the server behind the counter hesitates, her hand pausing above a stack of plates. He walks slowly toward an empty booth near the back, doing his best to look like a tired traveler instead of a threat. But the moment he sits, a chair scrapes loudly somewhere behind him. Then another. The tension spreads like a ripple through water. The first person to stand is an older man with gray hair and a plaid jacket. He mutters something to his wife, and they gather their things. Another family follows, whispering among themselves. The mother casts a nervous look over her shoulder, her gaze lingering on Theodore's vest. He keeps his head down, rubbing the back of his neck. This isn't new, he knows what the patch on his back signals to people who don't understand the life, but tonight, the judgment digs deeper than usual. Tonight he's too tired to deflect it, too desperate to set aside the sting. He tells himself to breathe. Just order food. Just regroup. Just keep moving. But before he can call anyone over, a sharp voice slices through the uneasy quiet. That man stole my wallet. The words hit like a slap. Theodore lifts his head slowly. Mrs. Patterson, a small, sharp-featured woman in her 60s, is standing halfway out of her booth, one hand pressed dramatically against her chest. He walked right past me and now my wallet's gone, she insists, pointing directly at Theodore, her voice trembling with outrage. The room shifts instantly. Heads snap toward him. Conversations burst into murmurs. Someone near the counter quietly reaches for their phone. Theodore blinks in disbelief. "Ma'am, I didn't take anything," he says, voice steady but tired. He keeps his hands visible on the table. She scoffs. "Of course you did. You people think we don't see what you're really like. You people." The words land heavier than the accusation itself. A man near the entrance adds, "Probably thought we'd be too scared to say anything." "I didn't touch her," Theodore repeats, though he can feel himself tightening inside. He can't afford a scene. He can't afford conflict. Not tonight. But it's too late. Someone has already dialed the police. He hears the clipped, nervous voice, "Yes, Big Mama's kitchen, yes, he's still here." He closes his eyes for a moment, jaw tight. Every second here is a second lost from Emma. A few minutes later, two officers step into the diner. They move toward Mrs. Patterson first, letting her recount her story with sweeping gestures and dramatic pauses. Then they turn to Theodore. "Sir, would you mind standing?" the taller officer asks, voice firm but not hostile. He stands. They check his pockets, his jacket, his vest. He keeps his hands relaxed at his sides, swallowing the bitterness rising in his throat. He knows how a wrong move can twist the story. He's lived long enough to understand that the world doesn't always give men like him the benefit of the doubt. After a brief search, nothing is found. Mrs. Patterson insists, he must have hidden it. The officers exchange a glance. One crouches down beside her booth. Within seconds, he pulls a wallet from the floor, wedged under the seat. The diner falls silent. Mrs. Patterson freezes. Her cheeks redden, though she tries to mask it with indignation. Well, someone must have kicked it under there. Theodore lets out a slow breath, the kind that barely counts as relief. He doesn't wait for an apology, he knows none is coming. And then, through the murmur of tense voices and shifting chairs, a new voice rises. Calm, steady, unafraid. "Sir," it says gently, "you can sit wherever you like. You're welcome here." He turns. Behind the counter stands a young black woman, maybe late 20s, wearing an apron printed with tiny sunflowers. Her hair is tied back, her eyes clear and unwavering. Her name tag reads Jennifer. She steps forward, meeting the room's hostility with quiet strength. "Everyone deserves a meal," she says. "And no one deserves to be treated like that." A few customers huff, gathering their things. Someone mutters under their breath, "This place isn't what it used to be." The bell above the door jingles as another couple leaves. Jennifer doesn't flinch. She simply hands Theodore a menu. "Take your time," she tells him softly. "I'll be right over." For the first time since the call about Emma, Theodore feels the smallest flicker of steady ground beneath him, not safety, not comfort, but something like human decency. It's fragile. It's unexpected. But it's enough to keep him going. When Jennifer finally brings Theodore his food, he thanks her with a quiet sincerity she doesn't brush off. She just nods, gives him a small, reassuring smile, and moves back behind the counter. The diner isn't empty, but it feels that way. Most of the customers who remained keep their eyes glued to their plates, determined to pretend he isn't there. Theodore eats quickly. He barely tastes anything, but he forces down enough to keep himself upright. Every few minutes, he checks the time, calculating how many hours he has left before Emma is wheeled into the operating room. He wants to call the hospital again, but his phone battery has dwindled to a single red bar. He tells himself he'll plug it in once he gets the bike running. As soon as he finishes, he thanks Jennifer again and heads toward the door. Fresh anger, humiliation, and urgency tighten around his ribs, but he keeps his expression neutral. He has no time for pride, not when his daughter is waiting for him. But the moment he steps back into the cool night air, the faint hope he had been clinging to shatters. His motorcycle sits exactly where he left it beneath the dim street lamp, only now something is wrong. Very wrong. He crouches beside it, running his hand along the tire. A deep slash cuts through the rubber, clean and deliberate. Someone didn't just deflate it, they destroyed it. His chest tightens. He moves to check the engine. The spark plugs are loosened to the point of falling out. The oil cap sits crooked. He lifts it and feels his stomach drop. The oil has been contaminated with something thick, gritty. Sugar? Sand? He can't tell in the dark, but it isn't oil. Whatever it is, it will ruin the engine if he tries to ride. He steps back, breath heavy, mind racing. This wasn't an accident. It was punishment. A message. The same people who judged him inside the diner didn't stop at words. For a moment, Theodore just stands there, staring at the broken machine as rain begins to fall harder. Exhaustion presses down on him until his shoulders slump. He whispers to himself, "Not tonight. Please, not tonight." He forces himself upright. He can't brake here. He won't. The first mechanic shop is only a few blocks away. He pushes the bike through the rain, gravel spraying beneath his boots. When he reaches the garage, the lights are still on. Relief flares, but it dies quickly. A middle-aged man inside sees him, sees the vest, and immediately shakes his head. "We're closed," he calls through the glass. "You're open," Theodore replies, breathless from the effort. The man's eyes harden. "Not for you. Move along." Theodore tries again. "My daughter, she's in the hospital. I just need." "Don't care," the man snaps. "Get out of here before you cause a scene." He doesn't argue. He can't afford a confrontation. He pushes the bike farther into the storm. The second garage sits near the edge of town. Lights off, door locked, but when Theodore knocks, a figure appears behind the window. A younger man this time. He lifts the blinds just enough to see Theodore, then lowers them quickly and walks away. The third mechanic is an older man with a sign that reads 24-hour emergency repairs. Hope sparks again, until the man steps outside, sees the Hell's Angels patch, and stops cold. "No club business here," he says sharply. "I don't want trouble." "I'm not here for trouble," Theodore insists, voice raw. "I'm just trying to get to my daughter." The man's face softens slightly, but not enough. He shakes his head. "I'm sorry." Folks talk in towns like this. If I help you, I'll have problems for weeks. Theodore stares at him. Rain runs down his face, mixing with frustration, fear, and the slow unraveling of every last thread he's holding on to. He whispers, "Please." But the man only steps back inside and locks the door. By the time Theodore pushes the bike behind Big Mama's kitchen, the storm has fully opened. Water pours from the roof, soaking him through, but he barely feels it. He leans the motorcycle against the wall, then slides down beside it. His strength, held together by little more than resolve and a father's desperation, finally cracks. He buries his face in his hands, not to hide the tears, he's too worn out to cry, but to hide the look of a man who has run out of options. A man who realizes he's losing time. He pictures Emma lying in a hospital bed, her small body still, her dark curls spread across a pillow. He imagines her asking for him, and no one knowing when, or if, he'll arrive. The thought cuts deeper than any insult thrown at him tonight. For the first time since the ride began, he feels something close to defeat settling into his bones. He doesn't know yet that someone is watching him from the far end of the alley. Someone small. Someone quiet. Someone who will change the course of everything. For a long moment, Theodore just sits there in the gravel, hands trembling, breath uneven, staring at the cracked earth as if the answer might rise from it. The pain in his body is nothing compared to the ache digging into his chest. The rejection. The humiliation. The fear that he might not make it back to Emma in time. All of it folds into one heavy, suffocating silence. That's when he hears footsteps. Slow. Cautious. Not the stomp of a deputy coming back for one more threat, not the heavy tread of someone looking to start a fight, but a gentler sound. Soft-soled shoes crunching lightly over gravel. He doesn't look up at first. He's preparing for more judgment, more distance, more cold eyes telling him he doesn't belong here. But then a voice breaks the silence, quiet, warm, and steady. "You all right, sir?" Theodore lifts his head. A woman stands a few steps away, a waitress, judging by the apron, but not one of the ones who'd sneered at him inside. She has kind eyes, the kind that see past leather and patches and assumptions. Her name tag reads Maya. She looks nervous, but not afraid. Concern softens her posture as she approaches, a towel still in her hand as if she'd run out the moment she saw him hit the ground. He tries brushing dirt from his sleeve, muttering that he's fine. But the moment he shifts, pain shoots through his ribs and he sucks in a sharp breath. Maya kneels beside him without hesitation. "That fall wasn't light," she says. "Let me help you." "No," he insists, out of pride, out of habit, out of the instinct to handle everything alone. "I don't want trouble." "You're not trouble," she replies, and her voice is so firm, so unexpectedly certain, that he's forced to meet her gaze again. She stands and extends a hand. He hesitates, then takes it. Inside the diner, the tension thickens the moment they walk through the door. The same customers who'd glared before now stare open-mouthed. One woman clutches her purse closer. A man mutters something under his breath. The manager looks as if he can't believe Maya brought him back inside. But she moves with purpose, guiding Theodore to a booth in the corner. "Sit," she says gently. "I'll get you some water. And a clean towel for your face." The manager approaches, anger tightening his jaw. "Maya. A word. Now." Her voice remains calm. "Not now. Someone's hurt. You can't just." "I said not now." The hush that falls over the room is almost deafening. Theodore watches her walk toward the counter, her shoulders squared, her expression set with quiet defiance. He realizes then that she's risking something, her job, maybe more, just to offer him the smallest measure of dignity. When she returns, she places a glass of water in front of him and hands him a towel. "Use this," she says softly. "And don't worry. I don't judge people by their jackets." He lowers his eyes, overwhelmed by the unexpected kindness. "You don't even know me." She folds her hands, her voice gentler still. I know you're a father trying to get to his kid. That's enough. The words hit him in a place he's kept locked down for years. The place where vulnerability lives. The place where panic and love mix dangerously. And in that booth, battered and shaken, surrounded by cold stares and hostile silence, Theodore feels something he hasn't felt since the moment he got the phone call. Hope. Theodore sits quietly in the corner booth, clutching the glass of water Maya brought him. The diner feels different now, still tense, still thick with judgment, but no longer suffocating. Her small act of defiance has cracked something open. Not in the room, but in him. For years, he'd carried the weight of how others saw him. The leather, the beard, the patches, they were armor, but they were also labels the world used to decide who he was before knowing anything about him. Today, those labels nearly cost him the one thing he couldn't bear to lose, time with his daughter. Maya returns with a small plate, just toast and a slice of fruit, nothing much, but she sets it down like it's the most natural thing in the world. You need something in your system, she says softly. Shock can sneak up on you. He tries to object, saying he can't pay. But Maya cuts him off with a simple shake of her head. It's on me. Across the diner, the manager looks like he's ready to explode. Customers whisper behind half-raised menus. Someone mutters something about people like him. The words reach Maya's ears, they reach Theodore's too. But for the first time since he rolled into this town, he doesn't shrink under their judgment. He lifts his head. Because someone finally saw him. Maya takes the seat across from him, lowering her voice. I called a mechanic I trust. He's on his way. Shouldn't be long. Emotion swells in his throat, unexpected, unfamiliar. You didn't have to do all this. She smiles, tired but warm. No. But someone should. Something settles inside him then, something steady. Not just gratitude, transformation. The world hasn't changed, but someone in it chose humanity over fear. That choice rewrites everything. He tells her about Emma, not the medical words, not the hospital updates, but the real things. The bedtime stories. The drawings taped to his bike's saddlebag. The way she hugs him like she's trying to wrap the whole world around him at once. And as he talks, the hardness in his voice softens. Maya listens. Really listens. Minutes later, a pickup truck pulls into the lot, Maya's mechanic friend. They step outside together. The mechanic crouches beside the bike, whistles low, and says it'll be tight but fixable. He starts working immediately. Theodore stands beside Maya, watching the engine get dismantled with the urgency of someone who understands a father's fear. You're going to make it, Maya says quietly. And for the first time in hours, he truly believes it. He glances at her, this woman who had nothing to gain by helping him, who faced a room full of disapproval, who chose compassion over comfort. People talk about angels like they're winged miracles falling out of the sky. But sometimes they wear aprons and name tags. Thank you, he says, the words small but heavy. Whatever happens next. I won't forget this. Maya nods, not needing anything more. Her kindness wasn't meant to be owed. It was simply meant to be given. And as the mechanic wipes sweat from his brow and announces the bike is almost ready, Theodore realizes something unexpected. The road ahead is still uncertain. Emma's condition is still frightening. The miles are still long. But he is no longer riding alone. Theodore kicks the engine to life, the familiar rumble vibrating under him like a heartbeat returning. The storm has softened, leaving the road slick and shining under the streetlights. His eyes linger on Big Mama's kitchen one last time. Inside, Maya wipes down tables, her back straight, her gaze brief but steady. No applause, no acknowledgement, just quiet, enduring human decency. That's enough. He rides through the night, pushing the miles away, imagining Emma on her hospital bed, hoping she'll be awake when he arrives. By the time he pulls into the hospital parking lot, dawn is just brushing the horizon with pale light. Nurses rush him inside, and he finds her, small, fragile, but alive, the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor steady. Relief crashes into him like tidal waves, leaving him speechless, trembling in her tiny hospital gown. He grips her hand. She opens her eyes just slightly, a weak smile forming. "Daddy," she whispers. That's all he needs. 2 weeks later, Theodore returns to the town, not just to pay debts, but to give back the kindness he received. He calls his brothers, 800 strong, and together they descend. The town awakens to the sight of men working with purpose, repainting walls, repairing fences, cleaning streets, restoring the diner and Caleb's garage. They leave no destruction, only care. Residents watch, stunned, their assumptions dissolving in the quiet proof that compassion can come from the most unexpected places. The townspeople who had once turned away now step forward, apologizing to Jennifer, to Caleb, to Theodore. The diner bustles again, laughter and chatter filling the air. Halloween decorations bloom across the streets, a symbol of renewal, of community, of the humanity that thrives when fear and prejudice are set aside. Standing outside Big Mama's kitchen, Theodore breathes deeply, his eyes scanning the transformed town. He thinks of the ride, of Emma, of Maya and Caleb, of every act of courage and kindness that brought him here. People see leather, patches, engines, and they make judgments. But tonight, he knows better. Hearts matter more than appearances, courage more than fear, and kindness, unexpected, uncompromising, has the power to change everything. He smiles, soft but certain, whispering, "This town learned something powerful tonight. And I won't forget it." And somewhere deep in the city streets, in the small moments and small hearts, the ripple of one father's desperate ride spreads wider than anyone could have imagined. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.